Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk about phantom problems and solutions and stories and how it all kind of pertains to RVs. So please stick with me for a couple minutes and you'll see where I'm going. I am a bottom line person. We all deal with problems differently, but when I see a problem, I'm trying to find a solution really quickly. Not who to blame, but try to find the solution to the problem. Phantom problems present a whole different way of having to approach solving that problem. I'll give you an example. If you have a flat tire, you have a slow leak, what's the worst kind of flat tire you can have? I mean, they're all bad, but a slow leaker where you can't even, they can't even find it at Discount Tire. A slow leaker, that's one of those phantom problems. When the light comes on your dashboard, it says check engine or something, and you take it to the shop and it turns off. And they can't find anything. And that happened to me. I drive a diesel. And a diesel, I learned, does not have a catalytic converter. But it's got this thing that is kind of like a catalytic converter. It keeps those nasty diesel engines from polluting so much. And it's called a DPF, a diesel particulate filter, a DPF. So I'm driving along, the light comes on, says check engine, not a DPF light, just a check engine light. Take it to the dealer. The dealer says, well, we have to run the diagnostic, put the computer on it, blah, blah, blah. They call me back and they say, well, sir, you've got a dirty DPF. You need your DPF changed or replaced, whatever. Oh boy, how much is that going to cost? $2,812. $2,812 for a DPF? What? Put it on hold. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. And so I hung up and I'm like, something's not right. I don't even know what this damn thing is. So I started doing some research. Went to YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. And I found out that the DPF, you don't even have to have one. Now, by law, you're supposed to have one. But I called the dealer up and I said, could you just remove that? Oh, no, sir, we can't remove it. I said, are you sure it's bad? Oh, yeah, we're sure. And I said, well, why didn't the light turn on? Well, it doesn't, and I got some kind of a story. I don't like a story. Give me something that's truthful, that's honest, that I can try to solve. And so he said, well, for sure your DPF, that's what it is. DPF is bad. I said, I don't believe it. I like you, but I don't believe it. So put it all back together, I'm going to drive it. I drive it about 50 miles and the thing turns off. The light turns off. What? And I've driven it and driven it and driven it, probably got 1,000 miles on it, and I didn't have to have a DPF. But they wanted my $2,812. I want to get to the bottom of things. When you're dealing with your RV, isn't it kind of like that? You go to the repair shop, you contact the manufacturer, and you get some kind of a story. Well, just tell me when I'm going to get the damn part. Tell me what a date. Give me a window of a date. It's kind of that way when it has to do with RVs and the law as well. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. I don't know how this crack frame thing is going to end up, but it just sounds terrible to me. The consumers that are stuck with them, and there's so many questions, so many rabbit holes you can go down. I hear stories about inferior steel that the RV industry manufacturer of these frames. I don't know if it's true or not, but that they buy less than high quality steel, but it's good enough. And they put it on, put these, a crate on skates, as they sometimes call them, these boxes with these huge storage compartments in them. And in the consumer's mind, it's like, I'm going to fill that thing up. Look at all the storage. I can put everything in there. And then, and then they find out that they're overweight. Their RV is overweight because the frame wasn't built to carry the weight that most people want to carry with them. And it's just this giant problem that doesn't manifest itself easily because you can't see a cracked frame and a broken frame until it's already cracked and broken, and the damage that's been caused from it. So it's like this big problem. I don't know how it's going to play out. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's got to be a mess.
It is a mess. It's a mess for consumers. It's a mess for the builders of the frame and the RV companies they've been selling them to. Everybody is trying to patch it and figure out how to get it by the extension of the warranty. So when the warranty runs out, if they haven't heard from the consumer, they can wipe their hands of it and say, well, I'm sorry, Charlie, but your warranty ran out on that one. So it's too late now. And that's not a good way for a business to run, but it seems to be the way the RV industry has historically run for a long, long time. But you're right about it. It can be a real disaster, and it deals with that weight. And that reminds me of a case I had a few years back where the RV was overweight right out of the box, and the owner didn't even know it. And it was a very expensive unit.
Tell me about it. So before they even put any of their gear in it, an RV they bought was already too heavy.
Yeah, and this one cost over $1 million, and that was the cost, not the MSRP, mind you. But it was a very expensive unit, and at that price level, they figured that everything was built right. And the reality, what we found out later, was that wasn't true. But the interesting thing about that is they had all these problems and defects with the RV, and they were complaining and going back time and time again and all the rest of it. Finally, they gave up, and I had just handled an overweight RV case, probably just a few months before they came in with their problems. And the first thing I started looking at, I listened to all the story, but then I looked at that weight sticker to see just exactly what do we got here and what is the weight, because if you got that and they're overweight to the get-go, well, all the defects no longer even matter because the RV itself is fundamentally defective when it's overweight. But a lot of people don't know that. And if they don't know where that sticker is and they don't know how to read it and they don't know how to get the weight checked and everything, they assume that it was built right. And that can be a fatal mistake.
I see almost every day when I'm driving and I see RVs going by me, so many of them seem to be overweight. They just seem, and I wonder how often these folks, RVers, go to a truck stop and go to the certified scales and just see what they're doing. Because on one hand, the manufacturers want to make money. Who can blame them? They want to make money. Yeah. And they make money by building these things that look pretty, that give you the illusion that you can take everything in your house and stick it in those compartments. But even though they say, well, no, we don't. Well, then why do you have all those compartments? I mean,
that's exactly right. Yeah. You have 5 big under basement bays on one side. Go around to the other side of the RV, you're going to see 5 or 6 more. And you open them up and you look, and you're inclined to think, well, it's there for me to use. Right. And then you go inside the RV and you got all these cabinets, all this nice cabinetry and everything. And you open them up and gosh, I can put all the groceries there. Look at the closet we can hang the clothes in, the drawers and everything. By the time you load up, if you actually loaded up every single one of those compartments and every single one of those cabinets, there's no way you wouldn't be overweight. And that's before you climb yourself back into the RV and try to drive it.
But Ron, here's what the industry would say. Well, you should have known. The sticker's right there. It's your responsibility. And that's true. But it's like the booby price. Most RVers have no idea, especially the first time RVer. They, you know what? We're going to load the Dutch oven and all the goodies and fishing tackle and tools and extra batteries and solar panels. And they are so overweight. The manufacturer can say, well, you were overweight, so we're not going to cover it if you've got a broken frame or if you've got some kind of a warranty issue, because you should have known better. And it's this, I don't know, it's an adversarial relationship in many cases. At least it seems that way to me.
It is adversarial. That certainly is true, but it's also a customer relationship that both the factory and the dealer should be paying more attention to. And on the overweight aspect, so far, I haven't seen anybody, I haven't even seen the manufacturers argue that these cracked frames are caused by overweight. That problem seems to be more fundamental. But the overweight aspect, when a new owner buys an RV, particularly the newbie who's never owned an RV before, they really need to learn how to figure these things out. But anybody who buys a new RV or even a used one, they need to find the sticker, see what the weight limits are, and immediately check out the weight. Have it weighed to see if they're under or not, because that's the only way for the owner to know for sure just how much carrying capacity there is. And they got to bear in mind the carrying capacity includes your own body weight or anybody else that would be riding in it. It includes the weight of the fuel. It includes the weight of the water. That's called the wet riding, in other words. If you're driving it wet or dry, there's a whole different weight level that's going to be involved, but you need to know what your limits are. And not enough people realize how critical that can be.
When I travel and, when everybody travels, they got to put their suitcase on the scale at the airport. And
Yes.
it's amazing how quickly you can get to that 50-pound limit with just a little bit of stuff. You go camping for a weekend or a week, and you can be way overweight and not even realize it. And that
Yeah.
puts you and everybody else you pass on the road or that passes you in danger. So get to a scale is what I'm suggesting to people, and check it out. Even if you go, I'm not overweight, well, you don't know if you don't know.
I'll tell you one sign of being overweight without even realizing that that's what the problem is when you drive down the road in an RV or you're towing an RV and it doesn't handle smooth. It shifts a little to the left or the right, or it tends to want to pull one side or the other. Or if it's a towable and you look in the rearview mirror and it's not lined up straight, instead it's dog tracking. It's slightly off to one side or the other, and it just doesn't track true to where you are. You need to check your weight, because if you're on a trip and that happens, you need to make sure that you're under your max limits, because if you're over, it's going to start affecting the way the RV handles and the way that it works with your truck when you're towing it. And all of that is a safety issue.
When I drive on the interstate and I see an RV and it's doing that fishtailing stuff, I'm like, okay, I think I need to stop and get a cup of coffee, or I either need to pass that person. I need to do something, but I don't want to be behind them when that disaster happens, because it's only a matter of time. Okay,
I see, and I think the same thing. When I see that kind of a thing, I have to make a decision. Okay, am I going to speed up and pass him and avoid being behind him, or am I going to back off real far so that whatever happens, I got time to avoid it? But you certainly can't be on their bumper, because you may be inside their RV with your car if you do.
Some people want me to take a side. Are you on the consumer side, or are you the manufacturer side? And I try to see things from both sides. And so when it comes to the storage compartments, if I'm the industry, going back to storage and weight, if I'm the RV industry, I want to sell RVs, so I make the storage compartments look big. And yes, the consumer needs to know what the weight limits are. But at the same time, the consumer needs to know the weight limits. Consumer also needs to know that these are not actual homes. They're not meant for full-time living. Most of them are not. Yeah, people all the time go, I'm just going to live in one. Well, no wonder it's going to break. They ain't made for that. And the manufacturer, that's the truth. And that stands up for the manufacturer.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the way I look at it, I don't view our law firm as being on the consumer side or on the manufacturer side. We're on the side of build it right. That's what it boils down to from our perspective. Is if they built right, then the consumer's not going to have a problem, and the manufacturer will deal with things the way they're supposed to do it. But if they build it wrong, then that's always pushing the RV into a problem for the owner. And when that happens, that's the side we're on.
Talking about the slide outs again, one more time. Is that something that you see a lot there? A lot of people having issue, because it's not just the slide, because if you've got a bad slide out or an inoperable, poorly operating slide out, that can lead to water damage and all kinds of other issues. Do you see that a lot at your firm? A lot of people come in with those issues?
Yeah, we now have 3.5 attorneys who only handle RVs. And part of the reason is because of all these slide out problems. I do all the reviews of every case that comes in, so I see what's going on when it's happening. And what I've noticed is that I can't remember the last case that I did a review of where a slide out was not part of the list of problems. It just seems to be a perennial problem with the industry to get those things done right in the first place.
I wonder what needs to be done. They've got the industry behind closed doors is, looking at itself, scratching themselves on the head going, I don't know what we need to do here, but it wouldn't seem to be that difficult. At least, I know they're made by hand. It's not all robots like the automotive industry, but you would think, I would at least hope that they could get the manufacturing, the engineering down where there'd be fewer issues with those slide outs.
You would think so. After all, it's an engineered product, and they don't build it with the idea that it's not going down the road. They build it with the idea that it is. All of those things should be able to be taken into account with designing an RV that fundamentally is actually useful for its purpose, which is not sitting still, but going down the road, and which is not something that you're never going to get into, but maybe once every year, but something that you'll get into at different times, different time periods and frames during the course of a year. In other words, build a riot.
You said a few minutes ago you have 3.5 lawyers that are now focusing on nothing but RVs. I wonder, what does a half of an RV lawyer look like?
That's the lawyer who spends half of his time on RVs and half of his time on cars and trucks.
So there's really that many cases that people have that many issues that come to your law firm?
Yeah, there really is. We've got cases scattered all over the country. And that's because RVs are all over the country. It just never fails. If they had built the RVs right in the first place, you'd have a whole lot fewer. But the problem with the industry, I saw it 40 years ago. I still see it continually. It isn't an idea that we're going to build it right. The idea from the factory side is we're going to build it good enough. And that's just simply, that's a road to disaster for the owner of the RV.
Good enough, but good enough for who? For the
Yeah.
for the company, or good enough for the consumer, or it's good enough to get them to buy it. We'll put a 20-year note on a product that's not going to last 10 years and say, hey, not our fault. You didn't maintain it properly.
Yeah. And I think that most RV owners would be perfectly happy if all they ever had to do was maintain an RV, the regular maintenance things. That's not what gets an RV owner upset. What gets an RV owner upset is when things start to go wrong and they continue to go wrong. And that brings up another thing, too, in terms of doing it right in the first place. It's not just building it right. It's also repairing it right. A lot of times the manufacturer wants to take the RV back to the factory and fix it and give it back to the customer, or have the customer take it back into the shop and have them fix the problems and have it go back. And what we've noticed is that if I was a betting man, so to speak, I would bet every single time that it's not going to come back without a problem. Not from the factory, not from the dealer. I don't know what their problem is, but it just doesn't.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ron Burdge, for always taking the time, making the time. I know that this is not legal advice. It's just kind of us visiting like we do at a coffee shop, just yakking. But I think that what you do in providing this perspective can be so helpful to the people that will actually listen, because often, we've got all these Facebook groups and we post your Monday morning recalls, that you put out there. It's kind of a public service. And many times people don't even read them until it's too late. And it's just sad. So hopefully these segments will continue to reach more and more people, and we'll get them to
Well, thanks for having me, Alan. I always view these times when we meet as basically sitting around your campfire.
Amen. Around our virtual campfire. Well, thanks much, Mr. Burdge, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Thank you, Alan. Good to talk to you.
Ron is such a wealth of great information about RVs and the laws. He is, if people will just listen. Sadly, too many people don't listen until it's too late. I say that many people, instead of the saying ready, aim, fire, they ready, fire, aim. That's because they fired in the wrong place. Going back to my little monologue in the very beginning about my DPF, diesel particulate filter. I aimed. It was ready. What? They got my attention. You got a bad what? It was a phantom problem. And I did my homework, so I aimed. I listened to other people. I did my research. Can the car run without it? Is it going to screw things up if I don't fix it? And I made up my mind, and then I fired. And I've been driving the car ever since without a problem. RV ownership is a big deal. It requires people to be responsible, much more responsible than many people want to be. It ain't like driving a pickup truck. You can seem to drive forever without doing much to it. An RV has always got something that it's either something broken or something going to be broken. And that's the way you have to look at RV ownership if you want to be a happy camper. If you accept that responsibility of RV ownership, I believe you need to hold the manufacturer's feet to the fire and make them accept their responsibility for the things that they promised you. But I'm going to leave it there. Remind you that Ron Burdge, if you think that you have a lemon RV, and a lot of people do, he has we're going to put it up on the screen. He has a web page. The address, and the reason I'm doing this is because many of you watch on TV, so you can't click on the description. It's rvlemonlaw.com. Go to that webpage, and for free, you can fill out the information, and they will evaluate your situation and let you know if they think that you have a good possible case. And if you do, you can make your decision. You want to do business with the Burdge law firm or go someplace else, that is fine. But again, that is on the screen, rvlemonlaw.com, and a link to that, as well as my phone number, 24-hour voicemail, and my personal email address is in the description down below, and I would love to hear from you. Again, if you accept your responsibility, I think it's only fair that the manufacturer accepts theirs. But drop a comment down below. That's it for today's video. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.